Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Ammar Elm, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, we are absolutely thrilled to be joined by Jim Duggan, founder and CEO of Intrinsic Methods, a climate tech venture bringing a radical transparency to the reforestation carbon credit market using blockchain and root maker powered tree growth. With 28 years in executive strategy and a launch through G Beta Huntsville, Jim is building a registry that verifies and tracks regenerative carbon projects globally. Jim, welcome to Founders Future.
Thank you. Well, thank you for that wonderful introduction.
Anytime. I'm excited to dive in. I always like to start from the beginning. So, can you take us back on a little trip down memory lane to before you started Intrinsic Methods? What were you doing at the time? And then what was really the motivation behind starting your company?
It was one of those motivations that life hands it to you. For the 14 years before that, I was a chief growth officer for a company here in Huntsville, Alabama, primarily selling product in the defense industry. My background is actually technology, communications, and telecom. As chief growth officer, we went from 25 to 100 million, and as life would have it, they aged me out. I helped a company called Rootmaker about 20 years ago, 25 now, write a business plan to start a product that had a patented product that grew trees 2 to 3 times faster, but more importantly, I had a 95% survival rate. What you'll find in reforestation is you see very low survival in trees planted, particularly in reforestation projects that are based on improving the ecology and the landscape.
Interesting.
When the owner heard that I had been terminated, he said, "Hey, Jim, would you come help me grow our business?" And I said, "Sure." And I did a segmentation of his market, and it looked to me that reforestation would be the biggest growth market. So this is how it all started, is I went down to a place in Lucedale, Mississippi. We were growing 400,000 trees for a climate project. And I asked them, "How you guys funding this?" And they said, "Carbon credits." And I said, "What in the world is a carbon credit?" So I did some research and I found out there's four NGOs that control everything and they take up much of the money. So there had to be a way that you could link project with carbon user. So at the time, people were spending like $1 million for an ugly ape NFT. So I got thinking, if you could link satellite data to make this very reliable and you could actually see your credit, why couldn't you sell a carbon credit as a non-fungible token? So
Wow.
one
Okay.
thing I've found in life is that when you help folks, it always comes back to help you. So I helped a kid in Oxford, Mississippi with his business, and he was in actually a Bitcoin miner.
Okay.
And I asked him about my idea, and he said, "Not only is that a great idea, but my best friend from college is doing it."
Wow.
So he and I had a Zoom call. Matter of fact, he now works for me.
Nice.
And he introduced me to the CEO of his company, a company called Blockchain Laboratories. And the president of that company loved my idea, but he said, "Your problem is," and I don't want to get too far in the technical weeds, is I was going to use Polygon as the crypto. And he
Yep.
said, "You should use XRP because it uses the same amount of power as a debit card." And he says, "Beyond that, your idea is so good, we should pitch it to Ripple, who's the owner of XRP." So we actually pitched it to them and they gave me the money to start up my platform. So
And
here
that's
we are
Intrinsic
today.
Methods.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
For the people that don't know much about crypto, Ripple is, I think, third or fourth in market cap.
yes,
It's probably third if you don't count
it's
USDT.
third, but it's getting real close to Ether.
Yeah, so it's humongous. So you went and you approached Ripple. First off, how did you even get that meeting?
The blockchain laboratories had been doing work with Ripple, trying to do some technology for them. and they call it a sprint or one of those. And the CEO had applied for several and had not gotten it. So
Yeah,
we had connections within Ripple. We were able to get a meeting.
that's amazing.
It's just like anything in sales.
Yeah.
You basically you make a call, you give them your pitch, and they can either say yes or no.
Yeah, I think that's a great overall lesson that people can take away is don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to talk to people. Because if you had never met that individual that I believe was in college at the time, and then he introduced you to his buddy, and then he introduced you to Blockchain Laboratory, and then you got a meeting from Ripple. Very interesting. I want to dive into intrinsic methods and what the business model is, because we have a lot of founders and business owners that listen to this. So break us down with intrinsic methods. How do you generate revenue? Where does the money come from? And what are you guys providing to the marketplace?
I have anytime you do a startup, you want to be, and I'm cash flow positive. So I have three particular revenue streams. First is the sale of the carbon credits, or I like to say carbon removal credits,
Okay.
of which we keep 20%. The industry right now takes somewhere between 60 to 75.
Wow.
And we can do that because we have our model is very efficient. Secondly, is these trees, how we do this is a future mitigated unit. In other words, we're selling credits in the future because you have to grow the trees. So we give progress payments as the trees are grown and planted, and we generate interest off those dollars as we pay it out.
Got it.
And thirdly, which is quite frankly the initial bulk of our revenue, and what founders always have to realize is you've got to have various ways to generate revenue, but we do reforestation consulting,
Okay. Okay.
which is part of the root maker, and so we can generate revenue that way.
Got it. Okay, so with these three revenue streams in mind, so you've got the selling of the carbon credits, you've got the progress payments as the trees are grown or planted, and then you've got the reforestation consulting.
Correct.
Which of those would you say make up the bulk of the revenue in the company?
Now the consulting takes up the bulk of the revenue.
Okay, awesome.
The carbon sales are starting to pick up.
Got it. Now, with the consulting, who is your ideal customer? What kind of businesses does this apply to?
The ideal is actually a small nursery who wants to get into the reforestation business but doesn't know how to grow the trees in volume.
Got it. Okay. So I'd love to, if you're open to it, to focus on the consulting piece because we have a lot of consultants that listen to this.
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah, so I think that'll be very valuable. So small nurseries that want to get into reforestation is the ideal customer. How are you actually working with them in terms of how long does the typical engagements typically last? If you want to get into pricing, that would be amazing. If you don't, I completely understand. And then let's dive into what that offer looks like with the consulting specifically.
The pricing is it's not necessarily standard because every particular project has different needs, but most of the dollars that are generated through creating the infrastructure for them, designing the nursery. We remarket root maker product. And the reason why they want it is part of our methodology and our carbon credits. It has to be a root maker certified grower.
Mm,
So we walk them through the process of doing that, and we charge by job.
got it. Got it. And then
And-
obviously the timelines differ depending on the scope of work.
correct, correct.
Got it. That makes
And how we get prospects is a lot of people want to be able to supply trees to reforestation projects, but they don't know where they are. Okay. So
okay.
we're creating the projects and then linking the tree growers to that. I actually have a project that I'm meeting with my technical group to put it online, and it's a local. I'm pivoting a little bit of my marketing and project management because most of my projects right now are international, Brazil, Mongolia, and Haiti. And a lot of the current large buyers in the US want something in the US.
And that's with the consulting specifically.
Yes, actually, this is actually carbon credits.
Okay. So just so I can wrap my head around the model,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
yeah, no, you're good. Let's say you get a consulting client. Can you sell them carbon credits or do you sell it to the tree growers?
Or I could sell that to the tree growers, basically use the carbon credits to pay for the trees being grown and planted.
Got it. But the consulting clients need tree growers.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. And so I linked the two together.
that's genius. So you have the back end built in
Yeah.
where you're double dipping in a sense, but
Yeah, I hate to call it double dipping,
I,
but that's the business model.
yeah, and that's why I said in a very positive sense. Because
Yeah.
even as I said it, I'm like, but no, okay, very cool. So you create the infrastructure, you design the projects, you supply them with the tree growers or partner them up, connect them, whatever the term you want to use is. How do you generate leads for the consulting clients?
Most of that is done through social media.
Okay,
And then secondly is seminars and conferences that I've gone through the Ripple channels.
got it. And when you say social media, is there any particular platforms that you find are the most effective?
My platform of choice is LinkedIn and then secondly X.
Okay, makes a lot of sense.
It's interesting though. I when they had all the turmoil went from Twitter to X, and I really wasn't. It putzed with it some. I wasn't super knowledgeable, but I found that to be a very targeted media. In many respects, you can get a response back on a DM better than you can LinkedIn. Because
Yes.
unfortunately, LinkedIn is getting a tremendous amount of scams on it.
Yeah,
I wish somebody would look into that, but
yeah,
that's for another podcast.
yeah, for sure. So when you say X is more effective, or you found it to be more effective, are you running ads on X? Are you just DMing people that fit your ICP? What does that process actually look like?
Right now, I'm not running ads. I'm looking at experimenting with it. Primarily, it is informational post. Matter of fact, when I was selected for the G Beta program here in Huntsville, I got 4 or 5 leads that came off of X.
And that's just off of making a post.
Yeah, just off that. And then I did an X post on credits for sale, and I got, I think it was 3 pretty quick. You think those don't seem like big numbers, but I don't need 10,000 responses to grow. It's a relatively targeted market.
For sure. And I'm assuming it's relatively high ticket as well.
Oh
So
yeah, absolutely.
one deal is very attractive. One thing that we talk about a lot in this podcast, especially when it comes to building these types of businesses, is the idea of building a predictable lead generation machine. Something where it's like a faucet where you can turn it on and off. And I actually talked to a business owner yesterday where he was mainly relying on organic and he was mainly relying on referrals. And he expressed a lot of frustrations with the inconsistencies of that. They're great leads, but it's few and far between in the sense of you can't really pull a lever and get more word of mouth leads or get more organic leads in a sense. So I'm curious for you, what's your perspective on that? Is that why you're experimenting with ads or is it a different?
That's a big reason why I'm experimenting with it. When I started my sales career, basically it was rotary phone, and you had to write down when you made a long distance phone call, and most of it was you knocked on business owners' doors. I was trained very differently. Today, you can't even find a phone number for a CEO. So you have to completely change how you do your prospecting. That's the reason I do LinkedIn,
Yeah.
because it is a venue that allows you to address. I've been trying to get a hold of Mark Penoff, the CEO of Salesforce, who's a big carbon person. And I've gotten to the exec, but I haven't been able to get to him yet.
That makes perfect sense. That's why I love LinkedIn as well, because you can get very targeted with what
Yes.
you want to go after. Then it becomes, like you were saying, standing out in
Yeah.
the sea of all the noise, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And yeah,
But
that
I also found with younger people, I'm sorry to cut you off, is
okay.
that the email and even text, if you can get a phone number, they tend to be more responsive to that than a direct call, or even because there seems to be, I don't know, some reluctance. I don't know if it's generational. I don't quite understand it. but I have seen that.
Yeah,
But I still, when I go to a conference, I'll actually try to get a review of everybody that's going to be there, and I'll try to set up meetings before I even get there.
powerful. I like that. Walk us through the sales process. So let's say somebody raises their hand and they're like, Jim, I'm interested in your consulting. What are the different steps that they go through for them to become a client?
The first one is I'll qualify the opportunity
Okay,
and see if they really have the capabilities of being a valid partner.
got it.
And then it's basically what I call the demonstration phase. And actually, no, actually, when I qualify, I'm going to do a survey of what exactly are they needing,
Got it.
what are their requirements, what are their hot buttons, and then I craft a presentation demonstration of our capabilities of how our carbon credits or our technology are disruptive to the industry. And I try to create an environment of fear of missing out.
I like that. I like so
And then
some sort of urgency.
since versioning, and then I make a proposal and then I do a trial close.
There you go.
And then from the trial close, depending on how that goes, I decide if I'm going to follow up, how quickly I'll follow up, or if I thank them and ask for a referral.
Got it. So it's streamlined in a sense.
Yeah, yeah. And particularly the executives in this car business, interestingly enough, there's a lot of competition in this space. That's the one thing that I've had to pivot and not, I just didn't realize there'd be so much competition.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting when you get into something where you're like, oh, this is a blue ocean, but then it's a lot more competitive than you feel like. So I guess with that in mind, what do you feel like are the biggest challenges that you're facing right now? What are you really trying to work through as a business owner?
My biggest challenge is that I have a disruptive product and I'm new. And there's a entrenched base of current NGOs that have the bulk of the business.
Mm,
And the purchasing, particularly of large corporations that are looking to balance their carbon footprint, it's incredibly political. And not only that, but they've made some really bad decisions. Delta Airlines is being sued because they bought credits from Guardian and they're finding out that they were bogus.
crazy.
That's the reason for me. My projects actually are relatively small compared to what a Microsoft does or a Google. But what we do is we basically empower small nursery growers right now in very impoverished areas that what people don't realize when you do reforestation, it's carbon is just a side benefit. You
Mm,
bring back the pollinators, the insects, the animals, you create food, employment, you improve the water table, the soil quality, and the number of biodiversity benefits and economic benefits are immense. There's a Restore the Earth who we've done work with. They estimate that for every dollar spent for reforestation is a $32 economic benefit.
wow. Huge. Huge.
Yeah.
So do you feel like the solution to that challenge is just getting your name out there more and getting in front
Yes, I think it's getting my name out more. And I've also pivoted from my initial marketing and sales strategies.
Okay, walk.
I was emphasizing a direct contact into the large users, the Microsofts, the Accentures, the Salesforce.coms. We were able to get meetings and presentations, sales cycle way too long. So we've pivoted. We actually have, which is where we're getting a lot of our success now. We're going to second tier companies and Web 3.0 climate activists. So you actually
Mm,
buy the credits online or platform. And we're also adding a third process where we actually could be the distributor of the credits where platforms that calculate people's carbon footprint would have a direct API to our website. They don't know there are credits, they're just being
yeah.
sold.
Wow. Wow. Very interesting. Very interesting model. I like the way your business is set up. Now, when you think of the vision and you think about where you want to take the company, let's say over the next 12 to 24 months, are there any specific revenue targets, performance targets? What do those goals look like?
My main target is I would like to plant 10 million trees. My goal is to plant 1 billion trees. And when I look at KPIs and how I judge the business is by trees planted.
Awesome.
Because trees planted, and then of course the revenue and the profitability comes along there.
Got it. That's powerful. I like that mission a lot. When you think about the 10 million trees, the 1 billion trees, is that linked to a specific number of consulting clients or to any other metric in the business?
No, because one project could do the 10 million trees.
Got it.
If we could get the credits sold in Haiti, I've got 150 million.
You're,
That's where they are.
yeah,
And apart, but it's like anything, but we actually have another project that's very small that I'm trying to, it's a, by the way, the Chief Beta people, basically the ones that have got me selected for it, is it's only 1,000 trees, but it's in an area here in Huntsville, Alabama, in a development apartment complex. That if we do it, then it helps them fund trees that we're going to have. That will be the beta for going to the city of Huntsville, and then maybe Nashville,
yeah,
Atlanta. So now you could have local people buying credits, and then they'd have an NFT that they have that they could market because you actually, with our carbon credits, they're on the XRP ledger. So you don't have to necessarily retire them. You could actually sell them in the future.
wow, wow, wow. That's exciting stuff.
Yeah, it really, this is, I'm at the downhill slope of my career. And really what I want to be known for is growing a bunch of trees.
Yeah, it sounds like you're very passionate about this mission. And it's
Yeah.
mission driven, not like profit driven in a sense.
No, it's like anything. I'm a capitalist. You want to make
Yeah,
money. And I'm looking at an investor group and I want to make sure they get a return on that investment.
yep,
But the benefits you get from this are just amazing.
yeah,
And basically it's a free market solution to grow trees all over the world.
yeah,
And by default will change climate sequestration or carbon sequestration and bring even more benefits.
yeah. I love that. Jim, let me ask you a couple more questions.
Yeah, please.
One is if you could talk to new entrepreneurs and give them a piece of advice that you wish you knew when you were first starting off in your journey, what would that be?
The first thing I would tell somebody is don't get upset if somebody tells you your baby is ugly. The second thing is it's going to take you a lot more time than you think to sell your product. And the third thing, it's more important to win than it is to be.
Yeah, I like
And
that.
of course, I also counsel when I tell people that start a business, there are two important things, most two important things to running a business. To me, this is an MBA program in these two sentences. It all starts with an order, and you have to have more money coming in than you have going out. And if you stay to those two principles, you will be successful.
I love that. For the listeners that are interested in helping out in your mission in some way, what is the best way for them to reach you?
The best way would be J Duggan at rootmaker.com or at intrinsicmethods.com, or they can go to my website and which is intrinsicmethods.com.
Awesome. Jim, thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, Mark, this has been so much fun. I really do appreciate this.
Yeah, anytime. Anytime.
All
We'll have you back on for sure.
right. All right. Thank you.
So that wraps up another insightful episode of Founders Future. To our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And if you're a business owner and you're looking to scale your business and really enhance your sales and marketing efforts, visit closers.io to discover how we can support your growth journey. Until then, keep on climbing.